Hello, my pretties. It's the Queen of Lions here. Now that we're at Shadows and Pretties episode 167, today I'm going to be talking about two movies in one video. And we're going to be reviewing the last two films of the Twilight Saga series, that being Breaking Dawn. Now, Breaking Dawn Part 1 came out in 2011, and Breaking Dawn Part 2 came out in 2012. So, like a year after the first part of Breaking Dawn comes out. Now, Breaking Dawn is the longest book of the Twilight Saga series, but they also, when they made the movie, split it into two parts. Because if they put two parts together, it'd be like a 4 or 5 hour long movie. Which, I mean, that's understandable to an extent. It's based on the Twilight Saga book, and it's the fourth novel of the Twilight Saga series by Stephanie Meyer. Or Meyer, I do apologize. Now, part one is the sequel to the Eclipse movie that came out in 2010. This one came out in 2011. So, for those who haven't, watched the first part of the movie in like a really, really, really long time, and, you know, and for those who haven't seen it or something, I'm going to go ahead and, get started with this. So I'll talk about part one, then I'll talk about part two, and then we will talk about the book. And I will list a couple of differences from the first two parts of the Breaking Dawn movie, and as well as the book. Basically, this takes place a few months after Twilight the Eclipse, is a day where Bella and Edward get married. They happily exchange vows and they get married. However, Jacob Black, during the reception, who had left town upon receiving the invitation to the wedding, returns. Bella is pleasantly surprised to see him, and they share a dance in the woods, although Bella admits that she and Edward plan to consummation of marriage of their honeymoon while she is still human. Jacob eventually becomes furious, knowing such an act could kill her, but after the wedding, though, Bella and Edward travel to Isle Esme for their honeymoon. And when they end up making love for the first time there, apparently 2 weeks after the wedding, Bella then realizes that her period is late and having early symptoms of pregnancy. Carlisle, who is Edward's adoptive father, is told by Bella that she believes that she is pregnant. Edward gets distraught and is highly unlikely a human would survive giving birth to a vampire baby. Sorry about that, I just had to pause because I had to go do something, but now I'm back. Edward then eventually tells Bella that Carlisle could perform an abortion, which is killing the baby, but however, Bella refuses and convinces Edward's sister Rosalie to be her bodyguard. They fly back to home in Forks, Washington. Jacob rushes to the Cullens' house to find Bella visibly pregnant. He then gets upset by Bella's failing health by saying Carlisle should have terminated the pregnancy as soon as possible to save her life. Bella opts to continue the pregnancy and is against it. Just like I said before, forcing a woman to get rid of the baby when they're pregnant, I mean, that's against, it's the mom's body. If the woman is pregnant, they have the right to do whatever they want with the baby. It's their body. So, to people who are forcing women to, abort their baby, let the woman decide. Because, I don't know why people, are like that nowadays. But that comes to show you that it's Bella's body. She's allowed to carry her baby the full term. And it's her body and it's her choice. That's woman's choice. Jacob eventually storms out of the Cullens' residence, shapeshifting and arranges to be in the woods with his packmates regarding Bella's pregnancy. Sam believes the baby will not be controlling the craving for human blood once it's born. He thinks that they should kill Bella to ensure that her unborn child does not harm anyone. However, Jacob does not want the harm to come to Bella because she still has feelings for her and that she has done nothing wrong. Sam believes that if they do not kill Bella, her unborn child will. Disagreement went over issues caused Jacob and other wolves to disperse from Sam's pack to form their own. Eventually, as Bella's pregnancy continues, her health declines rapidly. However, a snide comment from Jacob makes her realize that the baby's craving blood because it's a vampire baby inside of her. It's like feeding off of her blood. That's pretty something that a lot of people, that even I noticed when I was watched this movie, even for the first time watching this in theaters. When she begins drinking human blood obtained by Carlisle from the hospital, her health eventually improves, and Bella's pregnancy continues to at an alarm rate. As a half vampire, the fetus development is far more accelerated from that of a human fetus. Because with the baby inside of, well, Bella's abdomen is like taking like more, like it's progressing a lot quicker because a human pregnancy it takes like 9 months or 40 weeks, if you will. Eventually, Edward's dislike for the baby dissolves, and he starts to read the baby's thoughts and starts to, enjoy, the fact that he's having a child with Bella. Eventually, she's sharing ideas about baby names with Edward and Jacob. Eventually, she ends up collapsing as Edward and Jacob and Rosalie begin performing an emergency cesarean section. As Carlisle is out obtaining blood, the procedure is excruciating painful for Bella. She falls unconscious during that, and following the procedure, she wakes up and sees her healthy newborn daughter after she chooses Renesmee, which is her daughter's name, a combination of her mother's name and Edward's mother's name. As the baby's name, Bella's heart stops and she dies. Jacob desperately, attempts CPR, and Edward injects Bella's heart with his venom in an attempt to transform her into a vampire, but this action appears to be futile as Bella remains lifeless. Panicked, Edward begins to chest compress. A distraught Jacob decides to kill Renesmee as he believes that she was the cause of Bella's death. But when they took a look into each other's eyes, he imprints her, and the imprint is to prevent the werewolves from killing Renesmee, as their most absolute law to not harm anyone who has been imprinted on. Bella gets cleaned and dressed over the course of 2 days. Her injuries heal, and her figure turns to normal. Finally, the transformation gets complete, and at the end of the first part, Bella's eyes open and she becomes a vampire at the end of the movie. Well, that was the first part. I definitely would have to say that I really liked how the development for the first part, began as well. So I guess the filming took place around maybe, I'm not sure when the filming, took place, but they wanted to keep the budget on Breaking Dawn Part 1 and Part 2, well, reasonable to an extent. And the filming took place around Relucent, which is in Pennsylvania, and Vancouver, which the filming took place. However, though more filming began in 2010, and in November in Brazil during the, some scenes they took place in different places like Brazil and other stuff like that. Eventually, they end up releasing the film sometime in 2011, which was after the filming was complete. So, yeah, anyways, eventually they got into some lawsuits with Summit, released a press release announcing certain things. And I would like to go into detail, but the video would be super duper long, so I don't want to make it too much long. Eventually, it was a very good box office success as far as I know, but yet again, well, it probably might be a box office bomb. I really don't remember for much, but I'm kind of looking online right now and I'm skimming through it, so I'm not going to do too much. Eventually, a week following the film's release, incident occur at the birthing scene, having triggered some epileptic seizures in moviegoers eventually. So there was a bit of that going on when it came to health issues, such as creates an effect with strobe light and reports of having seizures reported in Sacramento, California, Salt Lake City in Utah. There was a few incidents when it had that going on. So that was basically part one of Twilight Breaking Dawn. I really do think part one was pretty good. Even when I first watched the movie for the first time, I honestly did find, some parts of the movie was a little bit not really too upsetting, but kind of really bit it just went from 1 to 100 in certain places. That's something I could definitely say right now. So anyways, we're going to go on with Breaking Dawn Part 2. Now, Part 2 of it came out a year after Part 1 came out, which it came out on November 16th, 2012. I mean, I saw this movie on the first night it came out. It was absolutely awesome, especially that it based on the book. I mean, in the first two parts and all that, they got the original cast to come back to these movies. It's freaking awesome. So basically, this takes place after part one, where Bella, who eventually was given birth, reawakens from her human to vampire transformation. Edward helps her satisfy her internal first, so Bella is introduced to her daughter Renesmee eventually. The rest of the Cullens and Jacob stay nearby. When Jacob asks possessively towards Renesmee, Bella eventually learns that he is imprinted on her, making her furious until he explains that he has no ill intentions whatsoever with Renesmee. Meanwhile, Bella's father, Charlie, sorry, I don't know why I said Carlisle. Yeah, I think by the time I get my glasses, my reading will be a lot better. The glasses I have right now are garbage. Has been trying to contact the Cullens for updates on Bella's health. Carlisle announced that they have to leave Forks, Washington to protect their identities, especially because of Charlie. Jacob, desperately trying not to lose Renesmee, visits Charlie and tells him that Bella is alive and well, but she had to change in order to get better. Jacob also tells him that he doesn't live in the world that he thinks he does, and then reveals his wolf form to him. Charlie goes to the Cullens' house to see Bella, and he meets his granddaughter Renesmee, and he accepts now that Bella is now recovered, and this is her chosen life, but he does not know what changed her or where Renesmee came from, but he assumed that she's adopted, but he does not know that, Renesmee is their daughter. Eventually, several months pass with Carlisle monitoring Renesmee's rapid growth, and out in the woods, bitter Erna sees that Renesmee from the distance assumes that she is an immortal child, and without asking questions. Immortal children were vampires who have changed in childhood because they could not be trained or restrained. They slaughter their entire villages. The creation, such as children, is outlawed by the Volturi, and anyone caught with one is to be executed. Erna goes to the Volturi, reporting that she has seen. Alice gets a vision of the Volturian coming with Erna to kill the Cullens, and instructs the others to gather as many witnesses as they can so they can testify that Renesmee is not an immortal child. Alice and Jasper then leave to gather evidence of this. The Cullens begin to summon witnesses such as the Denali family. One of the Denalis, I believe, was Ilizar, later discovers that Bella has a special ability, a powerful mental shield that had protected her and Edward's mind reading. Even though when she's a human, she is taught to extend to protect others from the vampire powers. Eventually, the Volturi, led by Aro, arrive in Forks to prepare for battle. Seeing the large group of vampires, 27, the Cullens and their witnesses, the wolves, they stop the procession, but they are able to prove to Aro that Renesmee is not an immortal child, however. The Volturi are eager to add the gifted members of the Cullens Cove to the guard. So they execute Erna as an attempt to provoke a battle before the fight breaks and Alice and Jasper return, and Alice shows Aro her visions of the future. In this violent vision, she and Jasper gets arrested for attacking Aro after Alice finds out that he will not change his decision and kicks him in the face. Carlisle tries to save them but gets murdered by Aro, and Jasper gets beheaded by Dimitri and Jane. Alice and Sam then together for avenge Jasper by killing Jane, caused and partially beheaded by Tanya, a member of the Denali's, as a revenge of Erna's execution. Seth gets killed by Felix, and Leah saves Esme's life, but loses her in the process. Marcus welcomes his death when he's torn to pieces by Valdermi and Stefan. Aro tries to kill Edward, but a joint effort from Bella, and Edward kills him. The vision eventually ends with Bella burning Aro's detached head as the other Volturi members to grab her from behind. Aro, desperate, tries to be afraid of the vision future. He wants to execute Renesmee, as she still might become savage. However, Alice and Jasper reveal their final witnesses. Nafil, who is a half-human, half-vampire, just like Renesmee, he proves that he's not a threat, supporting the notion that Renesmee is not either. The Volturi unhappily leave, Aro fearfully explaining that there will be no battle today. So back at the Cullens' home, Alice glimpses over the future, seeing Edward and Bella having a foursome with Jacob and a matured... Oh god, I cannot say her name because you guys probably will know exactly where I'm coming from with this. Edward eventually reads Alice's mind and feels relieved that Renesmee has Jacob to protect her. Eventually alone in the middle, Bella pushes her mental shield away and finally allows Edward to see in her mind, showing him every moment they have shared together. They eventually shared a kiss, and they both said they love each other and be together forever. Thus, that's how the movie ends. Now the filming of this sometime, believe start up sometime, I guess in 2012 in April, and they eventually kept going when they finished part 1. So, okay, now that was Breaking Dawn part 2. I honestly found part 2 to be pretty good, although the first one did pretty good. But of course, with that being said, it did receive some mixed reviews from critics and all that. So, I mean, I really do know that there is some sort of 2016 spin-off that could possibly go ahead if Stephanie Meyer wanted to do one. And Verity, which is reported Lionsgate, has an interest in making having some spin-offs to the Twilight Saga series. It wants to create, writer's room to explore the idea, but I don't really know if that would ever become the case or if that would ever turn out to be, the actual thing. But yet again, I mean, that's gonna be here or there. So I am gonna go with the book of Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn, which includes part 1 and part 2 in the book. So I guess with that being said, I guess we should go with the differences between the book and part 1 and 2 to the movie. So basically, we should just get started. So in the book, we eventually see that Jacob gets the invitation to the wedding at the end of Eclipse, but he receives it in the opening of the first part of the movie, which it's pretty something. I know there were a couple of other differences, but one of them I could definitely say that the wedding reception speeches were not being described, but in the first part, in Breaking Dawn Part 1 in the movie, they were given and described at the same time. So, a couple of differences that they did see that in it. However, for what does not happen in part 1 is where Jacob breaks Paul's nose after he patronized him, ate his chips, and took over his couch and controlled his TV, but it does not happen in the book. Well, it does not happen in the movie, more say. Bella eventually discovers when she's pregnant, and it had been 17 days since the wedding, but Bella in the movie discovers she's pregnant after 14 days of the wedding. So it's another major difference I did notice to come across. So, what does not happen at all is when Jacob tells Rosalie blonde jokes to antagonize her, when she continuously replies that she's already heard of them until he makes the last one, but it does not happen in the movie, as well as Alice stays with Jacob when he visits to numb her headache caused by Renesmee. It does not happen either in the movie. Not such topic was discussed when us in some cases, but I'm just explaining some stuff. Now, the Volturi does not appear until the end of the book, but they do appear sometime. I'm in a post-credits appearance when they read a message from Carlisle about Bella's transformation into a vampire. So that is part one, some of the differences of part one that I noticed. I mean, there was a couple other ones that I noticed, but I'm not going to go to every single one. But now I'm going to go to the difference with the part two from the book. So Bella wakes up from her transformation, and in the movie, he says that he thinks of this or something. I mean, I know I stopped using words. My mind has been a fuzz when it comes to this movie because, God, I haven't watched this movie in like a while, and I haven't read the book in years. So I'm gonna have to read the book again because it's been, quite a while. However, though, I did notice that Jacob arrives at the Cullens' house after the Cullens realize that the Volturi were coming to kill them in the book. However, Jacob gets present when they realize this. Eventually, later on, what's a really surprising thing about this is that how Jacob, imprinted on Red Nesme, protecting her from, death or anything like that. Well, not death, obviously, but something. But there is so many differences when it comes to, the first two movies. I really have to say that, I mean, I could list all the differences, but there are so many differences in part one and part two of Breaking Dawn that were in the book. I mean, I really like the fact that, but yeah, since there's so many differences in part one of Breaking Dawn and part two of it, as well as the book, I mean, I could list all of them. I know I list just a few of them, but I mean, if I go through all of them, I mean, I may not remember if that happened in the book or if that happened in the movie. I know I was looking on the wiki earlier just to see for myself, but it's been quite a while since I've watched the movies as well as reading the book, so I'm gonna have to do some reading again because, I haven't heard of it in a long time. But I guess with that being the case, and with that being said, I guess I'm gonna say right now, I know there are two different sequels, of the book series. I know there is like one book called of Twilight Saga. I mean, so there's another two books that were released, after Breaking Dawn many years later. Life and Death. It's basically it's kind of the same. It's basically the same thing, retelling of the first book, but except it's a gender swap. Bella is now male, Edward's female. I mean, there is different. It's basically the same plot, but I've never read that book, so I don't know it. So I can't obviously, say much about the book. Life and Death. It's basically the same Twilight, the first book, but except there's, gender bent characters. And Midnight Sun's another one, but I've never read that one yet. So it's basically the work retells the events of the Twilight, from, the first to, Breaking Dawn, but it tells it from the perspective of Edward Cullen instead of that series, the usual narrating character Bella, telling it, it's Edward. So Midnight Sun, I might consider taking a read at that one if I ever get to reading. Life and Death, gender bent, Twilight story. I don't know if I will do that one because I really prefer the original Twilight story because that's how I know reading the book and knowing the characters in that. So I guess with that being said, and that being the case, what did you guys think about Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn? Do you like the book? Did you like part 1 and 2 movies? Did you not like any of the movies? Did you not like the book? Do you like them both? Whatever you prefer to say, you are free to have your own opinion. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine. I respect your opinion if you don't like the movie or the book. That's perfectly fine. I know Twilight Breaking Dawn part 1 and 2, they're both separate movies. I just thought, you know what? I'll put them together in, in one video just to, make any more sense. Because Breaking Dawn part 1 and 2 are basically based on Breaking Dawn the whole book, but they split into 2 parts because it would be like almost a 6-hour long movie. Like, who wants to watch a 6-hour long movie? I know Titanic's like a 3-hour long movie. I know these Twilight movies know to be a long movies, but with that being said, feel free to state your own opinions about Breaking Dawn Part 1 and 2 movies, and feel free to state your opinion about the book. Feel free to leave your thoughts on it in the comments below, because I like to hear what you guys think. Anyways, I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. If you're new to this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so that way you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, I'll be catching you all in the next video. Peace out, and I'll see you all later.